Hey, Sam. All right, what did I miss this morning? I see that they ended up doing that peaceful gathering. All right, guys, tell me if you can hear this. Hey, Angela. Let's see what's happening here. Why is there no volume here? Did anything happen this morning? All right, guys. There was a lot of nothing happening this morning, it seems like. Hey, Susan. When did court start? It looked like they did a whole bunch of nothing today.
Hey, all persons having anything to do before the Honorable William Sullivan, Justice of the Superior Court.
Really?
Sitting in Plymouth.
Wow, Brianna.
Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, court is now in session. Please be seated.
Yes.
Hey, Dawn. Guys, is the volume okay? Can you hear them okay?
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you again. I know I just spoke to you probably about 10 minutes ago. But again, I want to ask you those questions, then we'll talk a little bit about what our schedule is today and for the rest of the week. All right, so first question, has any member of the jury read, seen, heard, or overheard anything from any source about any aspect of this case that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial as a juror? Next, is there any other serious matter or concern bearing on your service as a juror that anybody needs to bring to my attention at this time? All right, again, thank you for following those instructions. And then in regards to our schedule today, you're allowed to kind of roll your eyes because I'm going to say we're going to have kind of a short day today. All right. And that is, as I talked to you yesterday about an issue that has nothing to do with any of the attorneys in this case. All right. It's just something we're going to work out and I anticipate it will be worked out so that tomorrow you should count on a lengthier day. All right. I've talked to counsel earlier this morning in regards to where we are in regards to the schedule and the timeline. we are still, if not on schedule, still ahead of schedule. All right. And this delay that we may have a little bit this afternoon won't affect that. All right. So I just kind of wanted to let you know that I appreciate. I know you came in here this morning. It's going to be a short day, but also
Hi, Rosalind.
get up for a longer day tomorrow. Okay. And so with that, the other thing is I told you it's got nothing to do with any of the attorneys, but it's also or the parties. So you're not to speculate about what this might be. It's also you're not to hold it against either of the parties in regards to this. All right. If you're going to hold it against anybody, you can hold it against me. All right. So with that, we're going to return now to the evidence in this case. And Attorney Reddington.
Thank you. Sheila Kavanaugh, please. Let's see.
All right, guys, do me a favor. Don't forget to give this live a like. Let's push out to the algorithm. Thank you guys so much.
Good morning. Just face, Madam Clerk, raise your right hand, please.
The testimony of the evidence you shall give to the court. Sorry, the not coming between the Commonwealth and the state, with the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Yes. Thank you. You have a seat.
Just watch your step right there.
All right. Well, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
All right. I just ask you to speak into that microphone and keep your voice up so the jury can hear you. Attorney Reddington.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you tell us your name and spell your last name, please?
My name is Sheila Kavanaugh. C-A-V-A.
Makes me want a hot dog real bad.
G-H.
Sorry.
And what town do you live in?
What'd you say?
I hate saying this, but and I think she's a great woman, this lady, but she reminds me of the lady that goes, it makes me, you look like the 4th of July. It makes me want a hot dog real bad.
That I can't. That's so funny.
I live in the town of Belmont, Massachusetts.
She just
And
looks so
what
happy
do you-
to be here.
What are you doing for work now?
I am a board certified chaplain at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston.
And I didn't know that there were board certified chaplains. What does that mean?
Well, to become board certified, you need minimally a master's degree in theology or divinity. You need to complete 1,600 hours of training post your master's degree. 1,200 of those hours are occur in a clinical setting, and 400 of those hours are in a classroom setting where we study various disciplines: psychology, sociology, philosophy, theology, and ethics. Beyond that training, we need to acquire 2,000 hours of additional clinical training before we can even apply for board certification. And we have to demonstrate mastery of 30 competencies before we go to a national board and they make the assessment. I also need an ecclesiastical endorsement. And in my case, that was from the Archdiocese of Boston, from Cardinal Sean O'Malley.
And before you obtained the board certification in your education to allow you to be a chaplain, what did you do for work?
Prior to becoming a chaplain, which is a second career for me, I was a senior vice president at Fidelity Investments in Boston.
And how long were you senior VP at Fidelity?
16
From money to
years.
Jesus. All
And
right.
are you married?
I am.
You have a family?
I do. My husband and I are the parents of 4 adopted children. When I was pursuing my master's degree at Boston
Thank you,
College,
Moxie.
it was a 3-year master's, but it took me 5 years because we adopted our 4th child while I was in graduate school. She was a 14-year-old girl from Bogota, Colombia.
And how long have you been working now as a chaplain at Brigham and Women's Hospital?
Just
7
put a halo
years.
on her now. That's it. Hands in the
the
bag.
course of your duties as a chaplain at Brigham and Women's Hospital, did circumstances bring you in contact with Lindsay Clancy?
Yes, they did.
Can you tell the jurors what happened?
I arrived on the morning of Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. I arrived at approximately 8:30 that morning because I was there to relieve the overnight chaplain who was carrying the pager. I was taking over the pager shift, which went from 9 to 1 p.m., although I was working a full day. When I arrived that morning, she said to me, "Did you hear the news?" And
Sustain.
okay.
So you
Oh,
can't-
she's that
you
gossip
don't
neighbor.
object, so
I'm
you
just
can't
saying.
Say what someone told you, okay? That's
Oh,
called hearsay?
okay.
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 So I can say, as a result of the conversation with that person, what happened?
I was summoned to the director of spiritual care's office,
Did you
and
have a conversation with her?
I did.
All right. And as a result of that conversation, what did you do?
I went to Unit 8C in the Tower building of Brigham to meet with Lindsay Clancy.
And what time of day was this?
Roughly between 8:30 and 9:30 that morning.
And when you went in to see Lindsay, what did you observe?
Well, the unit itself was filled with law enforcement officers, both outside the doors of the unit. There was Brigham security, but the unit itself was flooded. There were people from Plymouth County, Boston City Police, Brigham Security. So I had to make my way through concentric circles of law enforcement to even get to the room. I was permitted to see Lindsay, although she could not speak at that time.
And what was her condition that you observed?
She was dressed in medical armor. She had tubes. She was intubated. She had bandages. She had a neck brace. She was just covered and layered in equipment that enabled her to breathe.
I'm showing you Exhibit 121 and asking, this may be South Shore, or it could be Brigham and Women's, but is this indicative of what she appeared to be when you first saw her?
That looks like it's from South Shore because when, yes.
Does she have the same?
Similar.
Very similar?
Very similar. Yes, very similar.
Did you see her again on another date?
I did. I saw her the next day. Again, she could not speak. She was intubated as well. That was the first week that she was hospitalized.
When was the next time that you saw her?
The next time I saw her was the following week. I have a calendar here of my visits. I saw her on Tuesday.
So, Michelle, we
January 31st,
just found out about
and
the
she
Latasha
had been
Sanders case, and we
extubated
are
at
looking
that
into
point, so
it.
she could speak.
So the tube had been removed. She was able to communicate, and that was on January 31st?
I believe she was extubated the weekend of the 28th, but I didn't work that weekend, so I saw her on Tuesday the 31st.
All right. Tell the jurors what you observed and what, if any, conversation you had with Lindsay on the 31st. And let me ask you, how long had it been that they removed the tube?
Perhaps a day or two.
A day or two. Okay. Tell the jurors what she said to you.
She continued to look like the photograph you just saw. She was covered, tubes everywhere, the neck brace. Her emotional state was very neutral, a flat affect. But I remember vividly the first thing she said to me. Now, she had heard me for a couple of days. We had been praying together. And so when I went in on Tuesday the 31st, she said to me as I held her hand to comfort her, "I am so glad my children are safe."
Was there any other conversation that you had?
Hold on. What did she say? I think I need to go back and hear that.
She said, "I'm so glad my children are safe."
that's what she said to this Sheila Cat. Hold, I gotta hear that again because that's the first time I heard that. And that comment right there is a big deal. I'm gonna go back a little bit, guys. Hold on.
And just so you know, we're not making fun of her. Jennifer Coolidge is actually really beautiful and awesome. And I give this lady props. She's a wonderful person. So
Very educated, and she's definitely seems like that.
she's just
Yeah.
soft skin and that it girl. That's all.
Wear the neck brace. Her emotional state was very neutral, a flat affect. But I remember vividly the first thing she said to me. Now, she had heard me for a couple of days. We had been praying together. And so when I went in on Tuesday, the 31st, she said to me as I held her hand to comfort her, I am so glad my children are safe.
Wow.
Was there any other conversation that you had with her?
I replied theologically to Lindsay, and I said, Lindsay, your children are safe. They're safe in heaven with God. And I held her hand throughout that conversation, and we prayed for them.
Did she make any other statements to you?
She did. She alluded to having heard a voice, and the voice,
Alluded?
according to Lindsay, told her that if she did not follow the command, neither she nor her children would be safe.
And did she indicate whether it was a male voice, a female voice, loud, soft?
She alluded to the fact that it was a male voice and it was persistent.
Any further conversation that you recall about that, not about general things, you know?
That came up several times. I visited Lindsay minimally 14 times while she was hospitalized at the Brigham, and the voice conversation came up several times during several of our visits.
Now, after Lindsay was transferred or cleared to go from Brigham and Women's Hospital, did she go to another facility?
She did. She went to Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital.
And do you know when that was?
That was roughly late February, perhaps around the 23rd.
And did you continue to see Lindsay at Spalding Rehab?
I did.
Do you know when she left Spalding Rehab?
In the late March, early April time frame, perhaps.
Okay. Now, Brigham and Women's Hospital and Spalding Rehab are under the same umbrella of hospitals. Is that right?
They are. So Brigham and Women's Hospital and Spalding Rehab are under the Mass General Brigham complex. So for me to visit Lindsay in Spalding, I was still within the same hospital complex, and her psychiatrist at Spalding, as well as the chaplains, advised me to continue.
You can't say what anybody told me.
Oh, sorry.
So when she was discharged from Spalding Rehab, where did she go?
She went to Tewksbury State Hospital.
And fair to say that that would be back around February. It's been a little more than 3 years, 3.5 years.
Yes.
Is that correct? Now, when you saw her in Spalding Rehab and in Brigham and Women's, you were acting in the course of your job. Is that right?
That's correct.
You're being compensated, you're getting your paycheck and that type of thing.
Yes.
How many times have you seen Lindsay at Tewksbury Hospital?
Perhaps 200 times.
Tell the jury why you continue to see her for 200.
Sustained.
So can you tell us how often on a weekly basis you would see her at Tewksbury?
Yes. When Lindsay was admitted to Tewksbury State Hospital, I continued to see her on a weekly basis. We had built up a very comfortable, respectful rapport, and I felt it was in her best interest to continue that.
Good wording,
as she
lady.
healed.
Rapport.
She
I like
was still
that.
in deep grief. She was suffering.
Sustained.
Excuse me.
Right.
So,
That opinion will be stricken.
so did she express anything about her children and their loss over that period of 200 times that you saw her thereabouts in Tewksbury?
Objection.
No, overruled.
Yes.
Other jurors?
Lindsay talks frequently about her children. She loves them deeply. She carries immense grief.
Objection.
What is the objection?
Overruled. Next question.
So glad he
And
overruled
has
that.
that continued to your observation?
It continues presently.
When was the last time that you saw Lindsay in Tewksbury?
Just prior to the trial starting.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Commonwealth.
Thank you. Excuse me. Good morning.
Good morning.
You were talking about on January 25th, 2023, when you first saw Lindsay in direct examination, and you said that there were a lot of police officers in the area, correct?
Correct.
But you mentioned that some of them were security personnel from the hospital, correct?
Correct.
And you're aware that the security personnel for the hospital don't work for the state police, the Duxbury Police, or the Plymouth County DA's office, correct?
Correct.
So they're separate and apart from law enforcement, correct?
Yes.
And then are you also aware that on January 25th, 2023, there was a search warrant being executed to collect evidence from the defendant and from the belongings that she had at the hospital?
No, I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that that collection of the search warrant required state police and personnel from the
I
crime
don't
lab to
think
be
the
present
chaplain needs
for the
to know
collection
that.
of evidence?
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that following that, at any given time, there were only 2 officers, either Duxbury Police, State Police, or Plymouth County Sheriffs, at her room, the defendant's room, at any given time?
I do recall that.
And they were stationed outside of her room, correct, in the hallway?
Yes.
So that the only time you saw this large amount of officers present was on the 25th, when there were security from the hospital and search warrants being executed, correct?
Perhaps.
Now, you mentioned that on January 31st, 2023, you spoke to the defendant and she told you that she heard a voice telling her that if she did not follow the command, neither she nor her children would be safe, correct?
Correct.
You wrote very detailed notes that are contained in the Brigham and Women's Hospital records regarding your interactions with Lindsay Clancy, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And in all of these notes that detail every time you interacted with her, you never once wrote that she told you she heard a voice or what that voice said, correct?
Correct.
And you also said that this voice, talking about the voice, came up in several of your meetings, correct?
Correct.
And you never once wrote about any of it in any of your very detailed notes, correct?
Well, chaplain notes are not verbatim transcripts of patient conversations. I'm not there to evaluate the patient. I'm there to bear witness to their suffering.
Okay, but the question was, you did not document those statements.
Touche, Sheila.
Correct.
But you did document some other statements in those notes, correct?
Perhaps.
For example, on February 6th, 2023, in a note that you wrote regarding your interaction with the defendant, you said that, or you wrote, Lindsay welcomed the visit and shared her fears of, quote, not being able to walk again, end quote. She continued to express her fears of how her inability to walk may make her vulnerable to others in the future. Do you recall writing that?
Yes.
Do you recall writing on February 9th, 2023?
She also didn't write down that the woman
defendant
used the
was sitting in
restroom
a
4
chair
times. So
adjacent
does
to her
that mean
bed
she
and
didn't?
appeared to be visibly engaged, energized, and hopeful than in previous visits. Do you recall that?
Yes.
You also wrote in that note, Lindsay spoke hopefully of being discharged when the time arrives to Spalding, correct?
Correct.
And then in February 13th, 2023, you wrote in your note that Lindsay also expressed hopefulness in relation to her physical progress. She feels she has gained considerable physical strength and agility despite an inability to move her legs. She admitted that she feels, quote, deserving of this, end quote, in light of recent events. Do you remember writing that?
Yes.
Do Do you remember on February 16th, 2023, that you wrote in a note that the defendant expressed hopefulness with the news of her anticipated discharge to Spalding and seemed uplifted that she would be cared for in a facility with an excellent reputation?
Yes.
Do you recall writing on February 16th, 2023, that Paula, the defendant's mother, and Lindsay, the defendant, were playing a card game as they communed quietly, and that Lindsay expressed hopefulness with the news of her anticipated discharge to Spalding and seemed uplifted?
Yes.
And again, you've got all these details about her feelings and her thoughts and what she's doing, but nothing about the voices that you spoke of so many times, correct?
Correct.
And speaking of Spalding, you continued to
She's
visit her
not,
at
she's not, she
Spalding,
doesn't do
correct?
treatment.
Yes.
Did, in those conversations with her at Spalding, did she tell you that how in those first weeks at Spalding, that part of her physical therapy, she was working out with a yellow exercise band? No?
I don't recall her telling me that.
Did she tell you that during that time at Spalding?
Cheap
she
shot,
reached
low
out to a
blow
social
from
worker
Bo
there
Sheep.
and asked for help filling out SSDI paperwork to get an income?
That would be beyond the scope of our conversation.
She didn't tell you those things.
No.
Thank you.
Because
So
that was another low
counsel
blow
asked
from
you
Bo Sheep, and
about
she
her
gets
filling
aggressive
out
when she says
forms
it.
for
It's not going to look
SSDI.
good to the
Are you
jury.
aware of what expenses her family and were incurring as a result of her physical incapacity, paralysis, and being in the hospital?
From my experience with thousands of patients, I had a very clear idea of the enormous expense.
There's a difference between, as the district attorney very appropriately referred to, that your comments were about her thoughts and her appearance and her feelings. Is that correct?
Correct.
There's a difference, however, between privileged communications with a chaplain and observations of a person's feelings and thoughts, correct?
Correct.
Tell the jury what effect privileged communication has when someone talks to you personally as a chaplain.
Because I'm not a medically trained clinician, I approach patients in a vortex of trust. Some of our chaplains at the Brigham are ordained clergy. And so there's this understanding that when a patient interacts with a chaplain, the conversations are confidential.
Do you put them in medical records?
No.
The words, like Lindsay indicated that she felt uplifted. I think the counsel read that twice. Were those your notes, or is that what she said to you? Did she say, "I feel uplifted," or is that
That
your
was my
observation?
perception of Lindsay. It was not her words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Como?
You said you're not allowed to put the defendant's words in your medical records. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. It's not that I'm not allowed. It's an understanding, and it's a conversation that's held in confidence with the patient.
Then why are there direct quotes in these medical records from the defendant?
Well, they're not verbatim transcripts.
No, not a transcript of the whole conversation, but you put phrases in quotes. For example, on February 6, 2023, where it says Lindsay welcomed the visit and shared her fears of, quote, not being able to walk again. So those were her words in your note, in quotes, in the medical
Quote
record,
may not
correct?
be the words, it may be the
Yes.
idea that's in
Yes,
quotations.
I use my best judgment.
Okay. I would move to have these submitted as the next exhibit, the notes of the witness in her interactions with Ms. Clancy at the Brigham and Women's.
Any objection? No. All right. They may be admitted.
I have no further questions. Sorry.
Hey, Mr. Reddington, go ahead.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
Little Bo Sheep lost her freaking mind.
All right, counsel, can I see it?
Somebody needs to put these two in freaking timeout at this point, because it's wild. It's absolutely, what the hell? The yellow band. She was working out with a yellow band. Like, You come with no evidence, you come with nothing, and you're sitting there and you're pulling these low blows. That jury sees you and they're really going to undermine anything you've said if it holds any water or value throughout this entire thing because of your behavior. You're not walking around with confidence, you're walking around with arrogance and aggression. They're not going to take it the same way. They're going to take you as not confident in what you're trying to say and the theory you're putting out there, and they're not going to believe you.
Well, and it was clear as day as like, yeah, I'm gonna put down kind of what the conversation's about, not word by word. So we talked about her not being able to walk. That, and it wasn't the full in depth like, how do you feel about not being able to walk? What if you can walk? Have you prayed about it? Like, because she's religious. I do want to say thank you for the cash app, by the way, but I don't see that they really did anything. They kind of did the defense a solid.
Yeah, first of all, yeah, just the show that they're putting on and this behavior right there is helping the defense, right? And to sit there and say that obviously you can tell by those notes that chaplain was helping her work out what she can change currently, right? It seems like it was present day issues that she was trying to help her maintain that ideology or maintain that perspective of wanting to get better, not wanting to die and do all those things. And so like to sit there and act like nowhere in her notes did it seem like she was going backwards in time. Right. And so I think that's really important to mark. If this cat.
Yeah. And I feel like there's somewhat even though it's going to court, confidential on some of these things, maybe like talking about urinating, right? Because she can't walk and how frustrating to not be able to get it. I'm just saying, like, stuff like that. And then the important stuff, it was written down, but it wasn't like in total detail because she's not
she's not a treater, she's not a provider of any kind of care as far as medical or psychiatric, right? She's just a spiritual guide. You know what I mean? And so I want people to understand her purpose there wasn't to treat her. It was to spiritually guide her and be that person that she can trust and talk to, because just to have somebody, right? She wasn't there on a treatment basis. And I think that people need to understand what her role was.
Your patience with us. So I'm going to excuse you till tomorrow at 9. All right?
That was it.
And
that was today.
They're come back.
Talking about this case, watching it. Just don't do it. All right. And when you leave here today, just drive, go home, wherever you're going to go, and plan on being back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. The plan would be that it will be it will be a longer day than today. I appreciate you coming in here today. We moved the case a little bit today, and I appreciate that. So we were able to do that. So I hope everybody has a nice afternoon and evening. And we'll see you tomorrow morning for a longer day. And just remember those instructions from the moment you leave to the moment you come here tomorrow. Okay? Again, thank you so much.
All rise, please. Your testimony.
That was less than a half an hour of testimony today.
Yeah, but to talk through this, because they don't want to submit the toxicology report to the jury. The prosecution don't want to.
Oh, so they still here talking, just not in front of the jury. Got it.
Correct. Yeah.
Sure, so the court will close the session, please be seated.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll take a short break at this point. We'll come back. We'll do kind of a preliminary charge conference. We're going to just, I know counsel knows, but for everybody else, discuss possible jury instructions, suggestions from counsel. Then we can talk about any logistical issues that we have for tomorrow. And then we'll probably recess at that point. All right, so.
So is the defense resting at this point?
And we'll come back up. Thank you.
And the defense,
All rise.
but they'll talk about it. But Tuesday should be when they rest.
Suggestions from the charge conference next day or so, but I just kind of wanted to get everybody's thoughts or kind of suggestions that they would be seeking the court to instruct the jury on. So kind of what I'll be using will be the model jury instructions, generally the model jury instructions from the March 2026, the latest suggestions from the SJC. And so Commonwealth, let me kind of hear what your thoughts are, and then I'll hear from the defendant.
So for individual instructions, we have listed opinion testimony, prior inconsistent and prior consistent statements, redactions. I don't think there are too many, but there were some on the death certificates, stipulations, and consciousness of guilt instruction. In terms of what we're looking for for the charges, we'd be looking for an instruction on first and second, with the theories of first being both deliberate premeditation and extreme atrocity and cruelty. In terms of the criminal responsibility instruction, we're asking that the instruction regarding intoxication not be given, because from our perspective, there's been no evidence of intoxication by drugs and or alcohol during the killings. There's testimony, and I think there'll be more testimony about the defendant taking pills after killing the children, and before killing the children, she was on low-dose prescription, 10 milligrams of amitriptyline that was recently increased to 20 milligrams, but there's no real evidence of whether or not she actually increased that dose. And then it was a low dose of trazodone and a low dose of, I believe, Valium. So those were prescribed medications that she had reported no side effects from. And I believe in the text with her mother, she said that she was still waiting to actually feel effects from those. So there's no evidence of intoxication from those drugs. And then the only intoxication potentially could be when she took pills after killing the children. And even those amounts from the toxicology are low-level amounts. So we're asking that the instruction on intoxication not be given.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask the defendant as well, because I did read through those. And
I'm going to pause this because I'm not a fan of these two, but they're correct, right? I don't believe that it was proven that this woman was intoxicated or that she did this as a result of those medications. I do think from everything that was testified to, her psychosis was due to a lack of treatment to the underlying problem, not the medication.
That's what I agree too. I mean, I can see what their point is, because she didn't take those medications until afterwards. And yes, the medications had an effect, but they already have that paperwork. And
she already committed the crime before she took them. And again, that goes right back to the timeline that both the prosecution and the defense seem to be in agreement of, right? She took the medications after she killed them, so they couldn't play a part in the actual murder itself.
And just so you guys know, in the civil court case, it details what happened. He left. She killed the kids. She went upstairs. She ingested the pills. She cut herself. Then she jumped out the window. So that is the order.
That supports the timeline that we also put into play, which I'll go over again for everybody, because it seems to fit according to both the prosecution and the defense, right? So, yeah. She did crush the pills the day of, but she didn't ingest them until after the murder. So, I mean, like I'm totally on the defense's side with this, but I see where the prosecution's going. And they, in my opinion, they're correct though.
I was trying to find the definition of intoxication
at it like, oh, was it a drug-induced psychosis then and not a psychosis from
Well,
postpartum?
right. It would be a psychosis regardless if it were, but I personally don't think, I think that, the defense really should have argued the psychosis not necessarily because of the medication, because I really don't believe it was. Right? But psychosis can be from anything. The lack of sleep, all of the underlying lack of treatment, to the depression and the anxiety and all of that. So
as it applies in the homicide instructions. Most of the cases that I was able to find so far is the dealing with the OUI statute, Chapter 90, and trying to find the real definition in regards to that. Is it the Commonwealth's position that the intoxication is beyond what was the considered effect of the drugs? Because if do you know what I'm saying? So if she takes, if a defendant, I don't mean to personalize it, if a defendant takes prescription drugs and it does create some effect, would that be considered intoxicated for the instruction?
that's a great
In the
question.
instructions, it talks about having, being intoxicated to the point where it affects your state of mind or ability to control yourself. I think intoxication, especially where there's not a specific definition given in the homicide instructions, I think you go to the general definition of intoxication, which would not just be taking medication as prescribed, but it would be over taking medication or combining with alcohol or other drugs. It's similar to the instructions in OUIs, operating under the influence of alcohol or drugs. I think you would have to go to that definition or to the general definition of intoxication if it's not specifically defined in the instructions. And I think the general definition of intoxication is taking some type of substance, either alcohol, drugs, medication, in excess, and to the point where it's affecting your ability to think and to act and to control your behavior.
All right. All right. Anything? So I've got opinion, prior, consistent, prior, inconsistent, redaction, stipulations, consciousness of guilt, first, second, extreme atrocity, deliberate premeditation, and the criminal responsibilities without the subparagraph or the paragraph regarding intoxication.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Mr. Reddington?
I don't know if the government has been listening to the same evidence in this case. This is clearly an involuntary intoxication defense, at least as far as the judge's charge to the jury, based upon the evidence that's been presented, whether or not it's what we would argue is the over prescription of the medications, whether or not it's the side effects of the medications, whether or not it's the titration or the termination or the immediate cessation of the medications against what normal medical advice would be. All of those factors contribute to the state of mind of Ms. Clancy that was expressed to a lot of people, family members, people that knew her. She had indicated, I think Your Honor knows the evidence, repeatedly indicated that she was affected by the benzos. She was affected, felt that
So I think the problem here with what they're talking about is the word intoxication, which I agree. It doesn't sound to me like there was an intoxication. It sounds to me like there was a negative effect, which is not the same thing. So I feel like I understand what the prosecution is saying, and they are correct. But I also understand what Reddington is saying, and he's correct. But they're trying to lump it into one definition of intoxication, which I don't believe it is. I don't think either party is correct when they use the word intoxication. I think they need to describe it better. Otherwise, you're both arguing something that's not the same thing. Neither one of them have the definition correct and are fully correct. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think they're saying intoxication because the toxicology report. And I wanted to tell everybody because they asked, in her system from the tox report was Seroquel, Lamictal, Remeron, Trazodone, Valium, and Ativan. But they were all therapeutic levels except for Seroquel was slightly above, but nothing concerning that the um, doctor stated there wasn't unknown or overboard.
And again, most of those medications were taken after the crime was committed. So their effect could not be considered in the actual crime itself.
Correct.
She was being addicted to the benzos,
Sorry, go ahead.
trying to get off the benzos. She indicated that the sertraline was obviously killing her as far as going from 25 to 50 milligrams. And then subsequent to that, when there's additional SSRIs prescribed, to suggest that there's no basis to give the jury the instruction, they may determine based on the evidence that is as a result of the involuntary intoxication from narcotics, not alcohol, obviously, from the prescribed narcotics, not illegal drugs. So from the
There were no narcotics in her system.
Yeah, and he's just clarifying because he just said not illegal drugs, not alcohol, but the prescribed
See, and again, this goes back to, I think it's the lack of understanding is what he's saying is correct, but that wouldn't be intoxication, right? That would be ineffective treatment. Those medications that would have built it up with her taking the medications and the side effects.
prescription drugs, that's on all fours with a valid defense that they should be instructed as it relates to involuntary intoxication. I think it's the model jury instructions on criminal responsibility. Obviously, if there's any nuances that I would pick up, I would bring that to the court's attention. But I have tried murder case recently with the model jury instructions, and my memory is that I was pretty satisfied. It was Judge O'Shea, I think, actually in this courtroom a year ago, and I was satisfied with the instructions on lack of criminal responsibility. I would at some point ask the court to charge on involuntary manslaughter. I'd ask the court to charge on wanton conduct with a component of the impact of the intoxication. So you can't try this case in a vacuum. You can't present the case to the jury. I know the government would like to present the case only on cruelty and atrocity. They probably don't like the statute that allows a jury to determine the degree of murder, which would be first and second. But I think that the evidence is such that a jury should have the option of considering whether or not we're talking about involuntary manslaughter based upon the evidence that's permitted. So I would defer to the court on the instructions on cruelty and atrocity, premeditated malice aforethought, second degree malice. I would ask the court to consider instructing on involuntary intoxication, to consider on the involuntary manslaughter as a lesser offense, and anything else that I can think of. But right now, that's what I can think of.
All right. Yeah, counsel.
Thank you. Commonwealth did request first and second degree instructions. It's our position that involuntary manslaughter wouldn't apply here. The evidence is that there was a specific intent to cause the death. So there's nothing that I can think of in the involuntary instruction that would apply here. Going back to the intoxication just for a moment.
Sure.
All of the medications, most of the medications that defense counsel talked about that the defendant was having reactions to and side effects from were before her hospitalization at McLean Hospital. And she was weaned off of that last one, the Seroquel, that while she was in McLean Hospital. And then she was without those medications and they're out of her system for 3 weeks. And she's just on those other 3 medications. So the intoxication that matters is not what happened in the fall and before McLean, it's what happened on the day of the incident. It's similar if it's an OUI, it doesn't matter if you were drunk in November, it matters if you're drunk on the date of the incident. So what matters here is that January 24th, 2023, and those other drugs and the effects that they caused to her aren't relevant to what happened on that day, as they've been out of her system for at least 3 weeks at that point.
All right, so the Commonwealth's position would be that the relevant analysis is what she was taking on or around that January 24th?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, any other?
Listen, I'm not a fan, but what she's saying is correct. And I've said this all along. They were arguing the wrong point of the psychosis. They were trying to blame it on the medication. And I don't really believe it was the medication. I believe it was a lack of underlying treatment of the underlying disorder. So as much as I don't want to be fair, I believe that she's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, good, sure.
It's occurred to me, again, as I said, it's only fresh in my mind from a case I had here last year. I know the model jury instructions indicate, and I'm trying to find it in here, that there's supposed to be consideration of a chalk for the court to write out the elements of the offense of first-degree murder, cruelty and atrocity, premeditated malice of forethought, etc. And I would ask that you not do that. I don't think that it's appropriate. I think it highlights, if you will, in simplistic terms, premeditated malice of forethought. I think
It gives
you and
suggestion.
I, we just had a murder case last year on another matter, and I mean, I heard your instructions. You're very forceful with the elements of the offense, and I just don't think we need to have this appendix or whatever you want to call it. And again, I did object to that with the Judge O'Shea. We did not submit the instruction list, cookbook, or whatever you want to call it, to the jury. So I think that the court's instructions would be sufficient. I would not want to have that chalk that is referenced in the model instruction. That's discretionary. It's not obligated. They just say that it might be helpful for the court to give the jury some type of a checklist. But I don't think we should reduce instructions on a murder case to a checklist. And I'm just afraid that what happens is that jurors then take the checklist, as it were, and they kind of look
They
at it and
use that as
consider
a
it, and they
guideline.
just do exactly that. It's a checklist. So I would ask that you not do that.
All right, just so counsel, my general practice is not to have that kind of list.
Yeah, I remember
I
that, yeah.
generally don't, but I also generally will provide a copy of the instructions
Right.
to each juror. So they'll have their own full copy and they can follow along because the three of you know they're lengthy and
Hey, Sarah.
kind of dry. So they'll have those with them. But I'll like I said, I generally don't do that chart. All right, so anything else in regards to the instructions?
No, Your Honor.
Right, so my plan would be to have at least a rough draft available for council tomorrow. So you at least have that, and depending on the timing and where we go in regards to the actual closings, we'll have the opportunity for you to review those, go over the draft, and then any kind of objections or suggestions you want to make, we'll have a chance to do that. But so you'll have, again, it's a rough draft. That's all I can tell you. And nothing's in stone, but at least give you an idea kind of where I'm coming from.
Messi, there's no more witnesses today.
Logistically, Your Honor, that with the presentation of Dr. Resnick and then the government having their 3 doctors, hopefully we finish the evidence tomorrow. We would be closing Monday.
I would expect either Monday or Tuesday. If the parties may need, we could talk about that. But, my old experience, there's been a lot of evidence and there's a lot of witnesses. And so if the parties feel that they need like a day.
So,
to
Nikki,
kinda
yes, I
marshal
believe that
their
could play a
thoughts,
part.
we
Yes.
could talk about that. So either probably Monday or Tuesday. We could talk about that tomorrow. All right. All right. Anything else we need to address, you think?
Right, but
All
it's
right,
not
so
intoxication.
tomorrow
That's
will be
the
a
word
recess,
that's poisoning all of
until
this.
Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, hopefully we'll start with Dr. Resnick and then, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. You just kind of looked at that. Oh, so that would be the thought. And then we'll just kind of go from there. If the defendant rests, the Commonwealth can then present their witnesses. And if it's not done by Friday, we can go into Monday, and that may mean closings and charge on Tuesday.
Okay.
All right.
And Mr. Verino will be here, yes, to set up the Zoom.
So you're not going to trust me to set that up this time? I think that's a good move.
Or me.
All right. All right. So thank you, everyone. And so we'll be in recess until tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, all rise.
So tomorrow they'll be calling Dr. Resnick. Remind me, somebody, who Dr. Resnick is?
I believe that's her physician that diagnosed her with bipolar 1.
Okay. So
It
that's
might
who
be- I just, Sarah knows.
Sarah, Dr. Resnick is the doctor who diagnosed her with bipolar 1. That makes sense to me why they would call her. So I think that's who they're calling tomorrow. So they will be calling tomorrow, but I do see the end of this trial coming up pretty quickly. I don't see it going past next week. Where do you see who is going to testify? They just mentioned it, Messy. The judge just The judge just mentioned it to Reddington that they're calling Dr. Resnick tomorrow. Is Patrick coming back? No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I feel like everyone is pretty much, that aha moment isn't going to happen. I think he's not. I think it's Dr. Spinelli is the one who diagnosed her. Who's Dr. Resnick? I remember seeing the name and I can't. But that's who they said was coming tomorrow, is Dr. Resnick. This cat is literally like fighting me for this camera, guys. Like, he really wants y'all. No rabbit jumping out of a hat, right? What Reddington needs is an instruction that gives the jury a legally correct path to say she committed the physical acts, but because of severe mental illness, she was not. Absolutely, Nikki, that's absolutely correct. So yeah, that's absolutely right. I think that, I have said this from the beginning, and I felt like this was going to be an issue, right? The medication, using the medication as the sole purpose for the psychosis was bad, because you had quite a few things that could have caused psychosis, and then you had all of them at the same time. So I feel like showing that would have been a better defense than just focusing solely on the medication. Lawrence is his first name. People said she can be found not guilty and walk free. So while that's true, Messy, they can say that they don't find her guilty because of the fact that they've been saying it the entire trial. I don't think that the jury is going to just completely eliminate that. So I do believe, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. Nobody is questioning whether or not she did it. Both are conceding to the fact that this woman did it. Whether or not she did it really wasn't in question in this trial. So while technically they could say they don't find her guilty of any of it, they don't see it happening. I don't see it happening in this case by any means, by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
So while there's a very small percentage that could happen, it's probably not. It's most likely not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a
Because,
90.9% that it won't happen. It's clear as day that the defense wants not guilty by reason of insanity, and she did take her kid's life, but this is why insanity. And prosecution wants, okay, she admitted to taking the kid's life, and it's premeditation, basically.
Right. I think that because we got to remember the whole time they never questioned the fact that she did it. Like that was never up for question with either side. So I think that they would have to disregard a lot of evidence on both sides if they were ever to sit there and be like, she didn't do it. You know, why do people say Patrick is hiding so not to testify? Because people are just speculating and throwing around theories and being messy. There's nothing that shows that that man is missing. There's no reason to think that man went AWOL from testifying at the trial. He was already called. He was already spoken to by both sides. I don't see them having to call him again. So I think I think that's just irresponsibility and a lack of, that's just speculation, right? They're all just running with their ideas and theories. But no, I don't think for any reason that that man would be AWOL from trial.
No, and they stated early on that his cross-examination basically was enough for Reddington. And cross-examination, as Kristen stated, is the most important testimony that you have. And, you know, at the end of the day, he did state Lindsay was a good mother and a good wife and loved her kids. And that was basically, I believe, enough for Reddington to be like, okay, well, that's, you know, and he's a victim. He's a victim, and I'm sure the defense, it's traumatizing to keep having to recount this when he is a victim as well.
Yeah, I agree. Both Nikki and Sarah. So Philip Resnick is testifying tomorrow. From what that judge just said, his expertise is extremely relevant to the defense's central argument. So Nikki, who is Dr. Resnick? He was a key expert in the Andrea Yates case where Yates killed. Yes. So he's just an expert witness, not anyone directly involved with Lindsay Clancy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an expert on psychosis.
So that's going to be the last thing that the jury hears. I don't see them, if that's what he's testifying to, I don't see them recalling Patrick I don't see them recalling Patrick at all. I don't see them calling anybody else after that because that's the ultimate mic drop moment. For them to sit there and say that in their medical expert opinion, the woman was in psychosis, that's going to be the end. That's the last thing that the defense wants the jury to hear from their side, right? Is the evidence to back up their entire argument. I don't think then, if that's what Dr. Resnick is going to testify to, I don't see them calling anybody after him because they want the jury hung on that last, mic drop moment of an expert saying that she absolutely, and criminal responsibility, yeah. So Resnick's role isn't necessarily to say I personally diagnosed Lindsay. His value to the defense is his specialized forensic expertise, particularly regarding postpartum psychosis, filicide. Yeah, makes sense. Will the neighbors? I don't see the neighbors testifying. They are not. Hey, Paula, they are not going to call the neighbors after Dr. Resnick. I don't see that as a good strategy. I feel like you want the jury to hang on the most important information. You want that most important information really fresh in their mind when they go to deliberations. And I think that calling the neighbor and giving a bunch of fluff and nonsense after such a strong testimony like Dr. Zeisel, like the chaplain, and now like Dr. Resnick, I think that that's going to be their mic drop moment for their case. They're not going to add fluff to the end of that. They want the jury to be hung on those last three strong testimony. Resnick he's coming in after Zeisel and Condi, so the defense can use him to pull the psychiatric evidence together. Correct. To bring it all right back in full circle. Absolutely. And that, I believe, because again, I'm not a lawyer, but if I were, that's where I would end it. I want the jury to hear all of that, pull it together, walk them through it, right? Take their hand, walk them through how it was psychosis, and then I would stop. Because I don't want neighbors and nonsense to come up afterwards and then get them all confused. I want that to be
That's smart. The experts,
Mhm.
the people that first two, the people that spoke with her, and then the expert to really drive it home. Like the people that
To
spoke
bring
with
it
her,
full circle.
and this is what they're recounting. This is what's in the medical documents, and this is, I'm an expert on this, and this is exactly to the T of a psychosis.
Right. And again, all of this is strategy, right? Like they know what they want the jury to hear when they want to hear it. And I think that being the ending of the testimony that's heard by the jury is the mic drop moment, right? They're going to finish there. They are not going to pull in now neighbors to what time. They're not going to pull in Patrick to come in. They're going to want the last thing the jury to hear was it was psychosis, and this is why. This is all of these people who testified. This is what they meant. And this, I'm going to hand you on a silver platter, the psychosis theory, right? That's what they're going to want to finish it. They're not going to bring the rest of the fluff in. None of it matters. That guy, the neighbor, doesn't matter. While it's interesting and we want to know out of curiosity, ultimately for the strategy, it serves no purpose. And in fact, will probably do more damage than good for that to come about after those experts testify. So,
And I do want to say, people that are coming out of the woodwork, be very weary of what they say even afterwards, the gossip, because it can come, it's basically being aimed at Patrick and the family. And, we looked at it with Gypsy Rose. People were saying that they knew her and there was no vetting. They were cellmates with her. There was no vetting. So, it's important to stick to these facts and what the expert testimony, the pathologist and the pathologist prior as well stated, showing the jury, this is how she fell out the window. These injuries are correct. These cuts are normal cuts that people use to commit suicide.
yeah. I agree, Nikki. I cannot wait for his closing arguments. I'm just going to say this, though, and don't come for me, guys. I know you all love Big Red. I hope he doesn't seem to be the best at opening statements and closing arguments, right? So listen, Mo, we ain't doing this today, man. I'm going to win. I'm human, okay? But I really believe that I hope that his closing arguments is better than his opening statement. While he said a lot in that opening statement, and it was all good information, I think it was too much technicality and not enough description that it went over the jury's head, because it went over my head a little bit. I'm like, where is he going with this? And if I felt like that, I think the jury absolutely felt like that. It's sad to say because the guy is a great litigator, right? However, the opening statement was just so much information. You didn't kind of narrow that down and walk them through it. You need to take them by their hand and lead them to where you want them to end up. And he didn't do that with the opening. And I think that I hope his closing argument is better than his opening statement because, again, while there was valuable information, it didn't flow correctly for me. And so I just kept questioning where the hell is he going? It just sounded like a rant. He wasn't leading me to where he wanted me,
Well, and that's evident because people are missing in pieces of that she admitted basically there was admittance. And so they're missing because of she was a gymnast,
Yeah, I get that. You want to make sure you let everyone know she was a good mom and all this. I think it was just so much information at once that I kind of tuned out and I missed the bread and butter of what he was saying out of pure boredom and just sitting there like, all right, where are we going with this? I need you to take the hands of the jury and lead them to where you want to be. But I do think that his closing arguments would be a whole lot better because, again, the whole coming full circle. Did I just get hit on Facebook? But the whole coming, bringing it full circle for everyone, I'm just hoping that it's a little bit better because that doesn't seem to be his strong area. But I guess we'll see. Rosalind said, I hope he stays by the mic so I can hear him. Man, I will be so mad if he's walking around. And I think he's going to be walking around. Somebody get the man a lapel mic because I'm going to be really upset if I miss it.
I think he'll be loud with opening statements to really drive home that point, though, too. And thankfully,
Yeah,
we can go over the transcript, and afterwards too, I can make the volume higher. I can download it, and I can make the volume way higher than what's being presented on like what we're watching off of Court TV and stuff.
Yeah. And again, I'm really curious to see the result of tomorrow's, like him finishing up with the witnesses. And again, I'm only assuming, but I don't believe that there's going to be anybody else called. I'm really curious to see the result on social media, because where's your aha moment? You sat there, these creators sat there and promised these people, this is what Reddington's doing. Reddington is leading it all to Patrick. Well, what happens now? What are you going to run with now? Like, they literally have people out there. Okay. They literally have people out there looking for him. Like, people in the area of him looking for him because they think that he's AWOL from court. Guys, what are you doing? Guys, go find him. Send it to Reddington. If you see him, let Reddington know where he is. So stalking and harassment, y'all are good with that? Like, y'all are okay with that? Like, what are you doing? The guy's not AWOL. Make it make sense. He is no Michael Jackson. Man, listen. This stuff is wild. Sam just totally jumped out the box now.
So I guess Dr. Spinelli, he did speak with what was his name? Dr. Zeisel, to basically talk with him about psychosis and confirm Dr. Zeisel's statements and stuff like that. And then Sarah, she's driving, she wants to know, does bipolar, do you always have it, or does it just come on? I know with mine, they typically stated around the age of 15 is when, typically you notice signs of mental health issues like bipolar depression or whatever because of puberty, brain changing and stuff like that, and trauma maybe that causes psychosis. But not psychosis, bipolar.
Once you have bipolar, you're diagnosed with bipolar, you have bipolar, period. While it can be treated and the symptoms can be gone, the diagnosis and the actual illness is never gone.
And that makes sense because she, in college, had to start taking medications for anxiety and stuff like that. And that, I think that was underlying bipolar, as well as she was so type A. The extreme exercising, that's part of mania as well. And then the low lows of depression, and it can switch at a fingertip. I mean, it could be something somebody states that you get upset about, and then boom, you're in a low, or you start feeling you get this intense urge to spend money, you can do anything, and you don't think of the effects that it will have later because you're in like, no, I can handle it. And then when you go low, then you realize you can't handle it and you're a different person. It feels like that's with me personally, what I've read on, but me as well, if I'm not medicated.
Yeah, I agree. Nikki said, how long do you think deliberations will be in your estimated guess? I believe they have a lot of expert information to go over. Again, I feel like a couple of days. I feel like we're in trouble if they come back in that first day really quickly and they come back that quick. That's usually a really bad sign, right? If they can deliberate and they're only deliberating for a couple of hours, that's a really bad sign usually. So I would like them to take a couple of days and really look at stuff. I would guess like 2 to 3 days. I think that by the end of maybe next week, we should have some kind of verdict. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of expert testimony and a lot of things that they have to understand as far as like medications, diagnoses. I don't know. I just hope it takes longer than 24 hours, because if it doesn't, we're in trouble. Everybody knows that if that jury turns around in just a couple of hours, it's usually not a good sign. So I don't know. What do you think, Sam?
I think it's going to be about 4 days. If they really go over all the notation, the timeline, the testimony of family, but definitely the pathologist, the statements, it's going to take a while because they're going to have to basically have court in that room to decide. And I think that's a big deal with what Reddington was arguing, like, let's not do a checklist, but let them actually think instead of a checklist. Like, you know, did she send Patrick out? Yes, she did. But is that premeditation, or was that because she heard the voices all day? Like Dr. Zeisel said, she heard them all day and they kept getting stronger and stronger. And the voice said, have Patrick go out, get dinner. And then once he left, and she was nervous, so she was Googling, how long does it take until he's home? But this voice told me, and I need to go by the command to have him leave.
And I want people to understand about these command hallucinations. They're not just telling you have to do this. You feel like an internal force, almost like an OCD kind of thing, right? Like you just, you don't know why, but you have to. And you don't feel the rest until it's done. So it's more like a force than it is just somebody yelling at you to do something, right? Like you have this internal need to get done what they're saying, almost like an obsessive compulsive residual. You know what I mean? Am I making sense? I wanted to go. So I feel like we did the timeline. I really think that the timeline that we have here fits. And I think that if the jury tries to make a timeline, it's going to lead them where they need to be. Yeah, so Sarah just said when a parent believes, often through severe depression or psychosis, that killing the child is somehow protecting the child. And it's really important to listen to what was her name today? Kavanaugh's statement, where the first thing she said was talking about the children. I think that's really important. I think that thought and what she said really pulls that together. Repeated inability to agree hung jury becomes increasingly possible. Yeah.
And I know you guys know, because I know you guys are smart in here. And if you don't, that's okay too. You don't have to be, you're still smart. But I want people to know a hung jury don't mean that she is out. It means they're more than likely going to retry this trial until they find a jury that can come up without a reasonable doubt. Either she is not guilty by insanity or she is guilty by premeditation.
Yeah, you do not want a hung jury. I really don't want to see that. I think that this needs to be put to rest. I think the defense did a good job of proving what they technically didn't have to prove. And I think the prosecution did not support their own theory. Nothing evidentiary, nothing that they've given evidence of supports their theory. And if you really go by that, right, and you don't even take into account the fact that they're aggressive little jerks, right? If you listen to the evidence, it doesn't support their theory. So really, if the jury looks at everything, it's the prosecution that has to prove that she wasn't in a psychosis. That didn't happen. And I feel like I know people are concerned about the majority of the jury being women. And I'm not going to lie. I am too. Now, we want to sit there and think that everyone's going to do as they're told, right? I'm one of those people. I know those jurors are home on TikTok and Facebook. Let's be real, right? Like, how many of us can put our phones down? And it's not like you could sit there and open up any app and not see it, right? So I'm one of those people that believes that there's always going to be a bias, unfortunately. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, like, and they're not. But I feel like having a majority of women on the jury can be to our benefit, the defense's benefit, or to the prosecution's benefit. Because how many women who've never suffered from anything or have an understanding of what postpartum mental illness is are going to sit there and be like, I can't justify or understand how any woman can kill their kids. That's a bond that was broken, period, point blank. It's horrible. And so without an understanding of postpartum illness, these women might very well look at, like, you did something I could never do, right? Doesn't matter how sick I am. I will never do that. I could never do that. You're just evil. And I think that really could be a potential if they don't take their biases away. And I think that nobody's ever totally unbiased.
Well, and that's why, the prosecution showed the autopsy photos to the jury, not to us, and had us listen to the phone call because they want to drive home. How can a mother do this? It's premeditated,
Right.
Not because she heard voices. Look how gruesome this is. It's premeditated. Look at this poor baby.
Well,
Look what you did.
and that's another thing that I feel like I wish Reddington would have brought up, because premeditation does not mean she was criminally responsible and not in control, right? You can plan, premeditate. Define what premeditation is. It means a forethought, right? A foreplanning. That could have happened 10 minutes before, which would have made her in the psychosis. You can absolutely premeditate in a psychosis. So I feel like that word premeditation that everyone keeps using, and premeditation being the one thing that says that she was in a psychosis or not, if people keep looking at that, that's where they're also going to screw up, because premeditation does not mean she wasn't in a psychosis. Premeditation, you know what I mean? It's was she planning it before the psychosis? Was their intent that she just wanted them to die and she had motive to want to kill them?
And I do want to make it clear, but you can take what, I say it's your opinion based, but when she asked, I'm glad my kids are safe. You got to remember the voice told her she needs to save herself and her kids. And by doing so, it's killing her kids and herself to keep them safe. So you can look at that two ways. You can look at that as because she has recollection that she had her kids are safe, or you can believe that maybe they're safe from her. But in my opinion, it matches up with what the voices said.
Well, look at the context too. She was talking with a spiritual guidance, right? She was talking with a chaplain. So if you're on that spiritual mind track, right, where heaven is safety and God is safety, then it makes sense that to that chaplain, who is, again, religious and spiritual, the conversation would be there. It makes sense to say my children are safe, right? Because we're talking about God and spiritual things, right? So that makes sense when you take it into context who she was speaking to and the mind frame in which they were both communicating to each other. It was more of a spiritual basis. And so the safety of God in heaven makes sense with the context of that conversation and who she was, Kavanaugh, that she was talking to. It wouldn't have made sense if she was just saying it to some random cop. But because she was saying it to somebody who was considered a spiritual guidance, that context makes sense on why she stated that. And it kind of shows what her mind frame was when she was speaking about it.
Well, yeah, because she said she can hear her pray for her for several days, intubated. as well. So who knows if she thought it was still the spirit world? Well,
And Jennifer, that's a really good concern, is that there could always be the potential, and they need 100%, right? So there's always that potential for that one person to be like, no, it's just not right. I mean, look at the internet, right? Like it's very possible that there could be that one person that just isn't going to go with what they see. Because if they go with the evidence, I firmly believe that it's showing them that she was in, and that the prosecution didn't prove their case. But again, you're talking about biases and just not enough. There's always that one person that could just be like, yeah, no, I'm not going with this. And I listen, I'm going to be honest. I don't know that I can mentally or emotionally or psychologically handle a retrial, right? Like, because yeah, man, this has been painful to cover. It's been just wild. I have never ever seen a reaction to a case like this ever. So I don't know that I can take another go at this. What in the quick? Yeah, I don't know what the hell today was all about. I don't know why they just did the one. Why did they just do the one? I don't know. I don't know. But tomorrow, I feel like Dr. Resnick is going to be the grand finale. Court, yeah, it was like 20 minutes. Yeah, I don't know. But I feel like tomorrow with Dr. Resnick might be the last thing that they pull, unless they got another finale. I think that he might be the finale. I feel like it's hurting the defense's momentum. I agree. I agree with that. I can see that. I don't know, but I feel like it's ending soon. You know, I hope it doesn't affect the jury's decision. Yeah, I don't know what the jury knows as far as what's going on. Is Sugar Woo Becca? No, that's Milfy. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like you're right, because the problem is, if Resnick is going to be the witness that brings all of the testimonies of the other experts in full circle, and he's the one who's going to supposedly hand it to the jury on a silver platter, the gap in all of their testimonies is going to play a big part. It kind of hurts them. Milfy's the good Sugar Woo, yes. I guess I was watching your video and thought it was live. Aw. So I agree with what Milfy's saying, though. I think that the gap in these testimonies absolutely does an injustice for the jury, because it's going to be harder for them to have Resnick bring it full circle. There will be rebuttal. Is that what you were saying? And then, yeah. Or are you saying it was brutal? Both are true. Huh. Yeah. The doctors, yeah. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. And we still don't know what it was about, right? Can the DA call more witnesses? No, they cannot call more witnesses. They have rested their case. So all they can do now is cross-examine the witnesses that the defense calls. I don't know. I don't know that they can call any more witnesses, unless it was a witness they had previously called. I cried today when I saw the woman standing there waiting for Lindsay's car to pass by her on the way in. Yeah.
it was hundreds. I mean, hundreds that lined up in pink.
And they showed that. Hold on. I'm going to show that. Hold on. Let me play it. That is wild. Look how many people are there.
What made you? How did you get involved in this case? Walk me through the beginning of this.
I was devastated the night that Lindsay came into court in shambles when we were going over her last conversation. I could not sleep. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, I decided to do something. And all of these wonderful people.
Kudos to the man in pink.
Men saying anything.
Oh, I love this.
I'm here supporting my wife, Renee Kimball. She's the one that put this all together. I'm the man that holds it.
Bad answer, buddy. That was your moment to shine. You did not shine.
I'm here to support Mrs. Clancy too, and hopefully she gets the help she needs and justice.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm from Acushnet, Mass. My name is Amy. I'm also a mental health worker for 15 years, and I'm here to support Lindsay, her children, and I hope she gets the help she needs. Massachusetts failed her, and we need to stand and show people that mental illness is a serious thing, and more women need support.
Yeah. All right, lady.
And this just shows all the women and healthcare workers there, but this is a very real thing and a thing that needs to be better in our health to better. It needs to be improved.
Even when it comes down to the acknowledgement, guys, we need people just to acknowledge the fact that this is a true illness, right? That this can happen. Because without that, all of this is in vain and it's ridiculous. And we're never going to be able to provide people help if we don't acknowledge that it exists.
And this can happen to other folks. They can say it. Mothers and children, there was more education and more for help and not a stigma of losing. You know, I have worst case scenario thoughts. That could be considered intrusive, right?
Yeah.
Like
psychosis happens to 1 to 2 people per 1,000. I agree, Lisa.
Right now we're trying to get the Norfolk VA election is coming up with Adam Dyke.
Wait, was that woman just talking about how the DA election is coming up, the Norfolk DA election? She's being like, this is political? All right, lady, I see you. Wow. That is a really good outcome.
it's kind of like in 1992 with the ADA became the thing, and all these people that were wheelchair bound, disabled, climb stairs on their stomachs and called up in protest, like we need more assistance on that type of thing. And this is kind of the same thing. Do you guys ever know about the ADA?
Wow. What does the jury think? Why are they allowed there? Because they have a right to peaceful protest or gathering. That is your constitutional right to gather, and they're allowed to be there. Now, again, I'm pretty sure that the jury didn't walk past that, right? They probably took them in the back or had them going through another entrance, but they have the right to do that. Just like the prosecution had a right to wear bows in her hair for Cora, right? I think it's.
And this is the best way to do that, to make any changes, to make a statement is during court, during this trial, not afterwards. It's to bring to highlight. Yeah, well, and it's not just for the jury if they see it or not, which I'm sure they will, but it's for people to look at who can change in voting into advocating. You know, it starts locally too. Voting locally is the most important thing. You guys need to make sure you start voting locally, and that's the important thing that can be reached to a higher level on stuff like this.
I feel like this was a really good outcome. I see some men in the crowd, right? We got a guy wearing a red shirt. We got a guy there in the back, but I wish that there were more men supporting this situation. I wish more men were showing up here. Because while it's a woman's problem, right, the illness itself, the end result of what could happen affects the family and the men, right? Men are affected by a woman's psychosis just like the woman is. And I feel like I wish I would have seen more of a male support there.
Yeah, somebody said, you know, longer maternity leave as well. That affects men too because they put the stress of, okay, my wife has to go back to work. We have this new baby. She's stressed. I'm stressed. So it's not just for psychosis. It's for just, I mean, it is for that, but it's also for postpartum help and assistance.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely not enough not enough men in my opinion, unfortunately.
I believe America
But
is the only country that only gives you 12 weeks, and it used to be less. They just passed a law for men to support.
so yeah, child care after like in the postpartum period is really respected in a lot of other countries. In a lot of other countries for both parents. I think our country is so focused on working and making money and jobs, and other countries are not. They're focused on family and so they're not really protesting anything, Messy Bessie. What they're doing is they're kind of gathering in solidarity with Lindsay, right? They're kind of gathering in support of her, in support of how real postpartum issues are. That's what they're gathering here for. I don't know that they're protesting anything.
It's a rally. It's for support. It's for um, kind of showing, postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis are a real thing. Women go through it, and there's not enough resources to help. She reached out to suicide hotlines and stuff like that, and there wasn't actual resources that geared towards her, even at a women's hospital. And so I believe that's exactly it's support of her, them going through it themselves, not being heard and not taken seriously, and no resources to help with the mental health in women.
Yeah. And I think this needs to be done. I think that awareness needs to be brought that these issues do in fact exist. Right? And all of these people running with the Patrick theory are doing a serious injustice to this. Yeah, they're arguing that they believe that she was in some psychosis and she was really not treated fairly and that she really needed help and was really mentally ill. And in the same breath, saying that she couldn't have done this, it had to have been Patrick. Like that lack of acknowledgement that she did this and her admitting it is a real stance, right? You not acknowledging what she's stating is a big deal because these same people that are running with these two theories are doing a serious injustice for it because you're still not acknowledging that the end result of a lack of treatment and proper care in the postpartum period can end in this situation.
Well, and there's another woman, the African American woman, that wasn't taken seriously in court. And this might be able to highlight that, or if she gets an appeal and can go back and get retried, taken more seriously as well.
Guys, what is that case? What was her name? I'm sorry. Michelle Bowden mentioned it before. I can't remember her name. The other case.
Letitia Jenkins? Or the Letitia.
Let me Google it.
Okay.
Now, what I could tell you what I do know about that case was Sarah. What was her name?
And I do again want to say I appreciate the Cash App, guys. It's really sweet of you. It goes towards papers and whatever else needed.
Latasha Sanders, is that it?
Yes, that's it.
She had 2 sons. So Michelle Bolden was right though. The only thing, and I don't know much about the case. Like I said, I heard about it. We discussed it a little bit, but I have not gone in and got all the facts of the case. So I cannot speak about something, and I refuse to speak about something without having a really clear understanding of it, right? However, that woman, as far as I know, they didn't even let her medical records come into play.
Yeah, and I think people are upset, and rightfully so. And I don't want to downplay this because Lindsay deserves a voice too. She deserves the rally, but so does the other woman. And I don't know the whole thing, but you know, Lindsay is an all-American girl. She was a labor and delivery nurse. She, you know, is white, and a lot of times, you know, people who are poor and people of color are not highlighted. It's not, and that's why people need to realize Lindsay's not the only one. This happens. It happens, and it's not taken seriously. And so it's just not on the news because it's not the, you know, well-to-do, all-American woman.
Yeah. Thank you, Paula. I appreciate it. And it says with her case now, it was initially, she was convicted in 2022 for the death of her 2 sons. While her defense argued she was in a severe psychotic state, the trial judge initially blocked her post-arrest medical records from being shown to the jury, which is wild. And that was also here in the same state. Though she lacked a formal pre-incident diagnosis, medical records later revealed she reported experiencing severe hallucinations and delusions that originally begun after the birth of her first child. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court officially vacated her conviction, and they ordered a new trial. Same judge, correct. And they ordered a new trial. The High Court ruled that blocking thousands of pages of her psychiatric records, which proved she suffered from undetected and untreated schizophrenia and psychosis, was a prejudicial error. Yeah. So again, I can't really speak on that case because while I know a little bit about it, right, I definitely would love to get into that case and follow that retrial, you know, better. I just can't intelligently speak on it at the moment, but it doesn't mean we're not acknowledging it. I do, you know, I know a lot of people because I do believe she was a woman of color, correct? And I do believe that that people are believing that there could have been a prejudicial, which, listen, you know, it happens. I'm not going to sit here and say that don't happen. So I definitely, before I can, only white people can be American. What do you mean? Who said that?
I never said that. I said the news likes to look at the quote unquote, you know, all American girl. What is that? As fucked up as it is. I'm not saying in my eyes, I'm saying in the eyes of the media. You can't deny that. That's what it is.
It is, right?
Through my words on that, I think that only Americans are white. That
no, what she's saying is society sees the all-American as the white, middle-aged, middle class, right? And that's the problem. And I think that, you know, could her having been a woman of color played a part in the fact that she seemed to have been treated by the same judge quite unfair compared to Lindsay. I think that's a fair argument, right? I'm not saying that there definitely was a racial prejudice, but I mean, it seems like it to me. I mean, why would you not let hers in? But Lindsay, who just seems to be the all-American, right? And I think that's fair to say. Like, I'm not going to sit here and get into a race thing. But I think it's fair to say that society in our nation does see the all-American as that specific. Does that make sense? So nobody's saying that only white people can be American. What we're saying is there is kind of a little bit of a prejudicial understanding when it comes to what does all American mean and what people see it as. So do I think that, I do know people that are saying that race could have played a part, and I can see where it can. Not that it should, but I can see
Yeah.
where it might look obvious that it did. Because
Just
again,
like,
she's been treated by the same judge quite unfair.
right.
Different than Lindsay Clancy, and why. But then again, I also want to put out there that I can't speak intelligently on the case because I have not done that deep dive yet.
Yeah,
But just at this level, that's what it seems to me.
right. We don't have the prosecution evidence, the court, the investigation information, the medical history that's presented or not presented, but what the defense was arguing. So again, I'm not going to make an assumption, but what I'm saying is
It's
in the media,
the assumption, yeah.
sometimes you can even say low income because you're low income and you don't come from, money, or you didn't have a good job. You work, you might be overlooked because that's not.
If you go back to the New Yorker interview with Patrick, even they defined the all-American family as that, right? Which shouldn't be. Wow, that's a lot more people than you see from the front view. I agree, Lisa. Yeah, I think this was needed. I think that watching all these people gather in support, and again, they're not. I want to put this out there because there seems to be a misconception that if you support Lindsay, you're supporting the murder of 3 children, and it's not about justice. That's not the case. We're not supporting what she did. We're not saying it's just for justification, right? What she did was horrible. She's guilty. She did it. What we're saying is that there's a support for the understanding and acknowledgement that mental health illness postpartum is real and that it needs to be addressed as a society, as a health system. And I think that's a really important, I think this is really important.
Yeah, personally, I think she needs to go to the a mental institution for the rest of her life. I don't think she should be out there. I mean, do I think she'll do it again? No, but I mean, I think she's gonna, with that extent of health issues and the severity of what happened because of the health issues, I do
Yeah.
think she needs to be in there for the rest of her life. I don't think she needs to get out. I don't, and I don't think she is. I don't think she is. She's going to need care too for being paraplegic as well. On top of that,
I just feel like I don't want to say she should be put in a mental institution for the rest of her life because ultimately it's about getting help for the underlying situation. And I feel like saying she should be in a hospital for the rest of her life is punishing her the same way for a crime that she wasn't criminally responsible for, right? So while I don't agree with that, and I get people want to see her punished, you can't punish her if you actually believe she wasn't criminally responsible. And I feel like saying she should be locked up for life is a punishment.
no,
I
I'm
feel like
with severity of her mental state and what happened. I do think that she's going to need long-term, care to take care of this. And that's my feelings. That's just how I feel.
so. My whole thing with that though is so once she is treated for the underlying condition, are you saying that because are you saying that she shouldn't be let out then?
No, I'm saying that the severity of her underlying condition, therapies and stuff, it's going to take a long time. I think she needs to complete that. And that's going to take a long, in my opinion, but I don't know. But I think that needs to be completed first.
So bipolar 1 is never going to be cured. So that would be the same thing as saying that anybody with bipolar 1 should be locked away because they could be dangerous. Because it has the potential for everybody with bipolar 1.
Exactly, but never mind. What I'm saying is what other underlying issues as well because of this has happened that affects her mental health. I think she deserves to get help. But because of the severity of what happened, she probably has more issues along with not just bipolar that needs to be worked through. And of course, I don't think she's going to hurt anybody, but I also don't want her to hurt herself and not have a full help of therapy and stuff like that inside a hospital. But again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But at this time, I think it's going to, help her tremendously more to be there to get the proper care, the continuous care. And I'm not saying that she's going to be rid of bipolar, because I'm not rid of my bipolar. I can manage it. But she has anxiety. I don't know. Again.
I'm not trying to discount what you're saying. I just feel like to sit there, to say that she should be in there forever is a punishment in and of its own. You might as well put her in prison. Because that would be a punishment to say that she should stay in that's the only thing I was trying to clarify. So either she should be punished or not, right? Because if you consider it a punishment, then you're saying that she was criminally responsible. That was my only.
No, I'm saying she severely has mental illness, and that the severity of what happened, in my feelings, that it's going to take a long time for her to prove it and that she is mentally capable of managing because of what happened. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how to say it.
I don't feel good because we have to be strong.
I think she'll do about 10-ish years and eventually be deemed healthy enough to be released from the hospital.
We cannot feel.
I don't know that we could put a time limit on it. It just depends on how the treatments that they put her on work for her, right? And I'm sure that they just have to see a few years of consistent, treatment and positive results from the treatment.
I think I'm basing my opinion off of Andrea Yates. Right. That's where I'm coming from.
But Andrea Yates chooses to be in there because she's been up for review and won't, you know what I mean? She wasn't forced to stay in there. She chooses to stay in there.
Hey, because she doesn't feel that she is. I think, I don't know why, but maybe it's because she's not mentally healed in that sense. And not saying that bipolar or anything can heal her, but she's not where she wants to be.
I feel like for her, it's more along the fact that when you do something so traumatic, right? Even with treatment, it's always like, man, what if I do it again? Because I didn't mean to do it the first time, right? There's always that fear of do I trust myself now? And that makes sense. I feel like the standpoint of people wanting to see her punished. So that's exactly, and that right there, you can't use the hospitalization as a punishment, because if you do, and you say that she should be away for this much time in a hospital, that's considered a punishment. And if she deserves a punishment, then you're saying in the same breath that she was criminally responsible, because criminally responsible people get punished for their actions. And what the argument is that she wasn't criminally responsible. Therefore, how can we punish her because she wasn't? Am I making sense? You can't use punishment in that defense, because then you're saying she's criminally responsible.
So we want to let her know that she is seen and heard now. And we're hoping that
And if you
maybe
punish her,
this
then you're trying to say that
unfortunate
she should be held
circumstance
responsible.
will maybe shed some light on postpartum for women, because unfortunately that is overlooked a lot, and women do get dismissed quite a bit from that.
You want to walk and talk? We'll go to the end over here. I think we're about to get an interesting shot. They're all heading to the end.
But she was not properly diagnosed and horribly over medicated. And apart
gonna
from the
walk
two
and talk.
things, she may
We
not
are
have got to the
going
point that what she did.
See Lindsay.
I'm not sure
I
what you're
think.
saying.
I'm not positive. I think that's
I
what we're
agree.
doing
Yeah,
now.
no, I'm not saying you said that, Yellow
So,
Jacket. I'm
here
just
we
saying
are
I
with
agree.
everybody. We have to listen to the police first. We've got
Oh, Patrick's
rules.
people feel that way for sure. See, but the Patrick people can't say
Okay.
that she should be punished because they're saying that
We're listening
Patrick
to the
did it,
rules.
right? So then those people should think that she should just get up and walk away free, scot-free. And that wouldn't be in her best interest or the best interest of the people, in my opinion.
Witness intimidation, which is a criminal offense, and we will have to take you into custody.
What is he saying?
We don't want to have to do that. We want to support you guys in everything you're doing out here, but you guys kind of have to help us with that as well, okay? So if we can all do this the right way, it'd be great.
I wonder if the jury saw this. I think a lot of people, and again, my only concern with that argument is punishment then means that you're responsible. And so you can't say that she should be punished and in the same voice argue she wasn't criminally responsible.
I understand that the jurors do have a job to do, but I do think that there is different ways to go about it. I do not think that they are being tactful in the way they're going about it. They're being rather aggressive. And I just don't see this being done appropriately.
I
really
agree
don't.
with that, Yellow Jacket. There
That is
absolutely
all.
will be those pitchfork type people that want retribution
Lindsay,
regardless,
we see
correct?
you. We hear you. We wish that you were not failed, hun, and you were. And at the end of the day, I know nothing's going to bring those children back, nothing. But hopefully this, again, will shed some light on postpartum, and maybe the next woman won't have to suffer. And I just hope that you, at some point, find peace. That's all I really can hope for you. And you, again, you're seen and you're heard. And we hope that you find peace someday.
Great. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I just that we're here to support. And again, thank you for.
How about shout what in the back that Patrick didn't do it?
And you like right back. I'm like, my leg is happening.
I wish there were more men though.
But then there's the people that will, abuse it and look at it as
And I think what I was meaning to say, bipolar 1, yes, you have it and it can be treated with medication. There is different severities of bipolar 1. So again, we don't know the severity level and how long that would take. And that's, I guess, up to the doctors to decide with the courts. And if she gets out, that's fine. But we don't know again. And so I'm not meaning like forever, I guess. I'm meaning
until full treatment is completed, right? That's ultimately what it would be until full treatment is complete.
Right. And how long can that take? It can take a long time, depending on the severity of bipolar 1.
2 years,
Under
right?
Other issues she may have now due to this. And I'm not saying she's going to hurt anybody if she got out. I'm saying for her mental health, so she doesn't hurt herself either. And I'm not trying to argue with you. I love you. I'm just saying that's my opinion.
You can have your opinion. I just feel like, it can take 2 years. I don't think the amount of time she's in a hospital has anything to do with anything. I think ultimately it's getting her help, right? Treatment she can be somebody who gets treated completely in a couple of years or never, right? But I just think that I think my whole thing, just why I didn't agree with you originally was, like you said, she should stay in there and that would be a punishment. Therefore, that would hold criminal responsibility. That was just what I was saying.
No, that's not what I meant. I'm saying like the severity of what happened and the effects of her mental health, not because of what.
I get what you're saying now. That's the only reason why before I didn't agree with you though, was because even though that's not what you meant, that's what you said, and I just corrected it because I didn't. You know what I mean? Like I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a punishment. We can't call it a punishment.
It's very moving for them. They don't forget it.
Mr. Reddington, what's your message to all these folks who are here today?
Thank you.
Yeah, he's so
That's all I
loud.
can say. It's amazing.
Love you, Kevin.
Kevin, are you surprised at just how much attention this case has gotten? I mean, people are coming from Maine.
It's the message. It really is. It's the message that just has reverberated, throughout the whole country.
What is that
Reddington's
message?
fighting for women's rights.
No, I
for
don't.
healthcare.
I think that it's the mental health system. I hate to use the word health care because unfortunately in this case we can see it hasn't been health care, and I think that it shines a light on this issue. I mean, when a woman is going through what so many people do, and they go to a doctor and the doctor says, here, take this pill, take that pill, take this pill, and then they basically treat them for 15, 20 minutes and send them on their way. It's just not right.
And to those who can't wrap their heads around sympathizing with a mother who killed her 3 children, what do you say to them?
I think it's almost like when you're picking a jury and sometimes somebody will say, well, I don't agree with, this allegation of murder. I mean, none of us do. But that's what we have juries for. They pass between the government and a defendant to see if they can prove their case.
Is she aware of this support, and what does she think of this?
I'm going to go in and see her right now. I'm sure that she is, and if she isn't, she will be.
What do you think about?
She's so beat up and just so sad. But this will really help her out, I think. It's awesome.
Tell her we love her. What do you think about you being the advocate for all women right now?
I'm not an advocate.
You are. But you are. But you are. But you are. Thank you,
That was cute. So yeah, ultimately, guys, I think this was a really good turnout. I think this is something that needed to happen. And I think that it really shows that people are acknowledging the mental health in the postpartum period. So we will see what happens tomorrow, guys. Hold on. We will see what happens tomorrow. On that note, guys, I'm going to end here. I will be, again, streaming it tomorrow. So, guys, thank you and have a good night.